Hello and welcome to the morning sports briefing here on Thursday, the 17th of September. I hope you're having a wonderful week this week, folks. And yeah, the weekend is arriving soon. In the news this morning, is England on the way to another series victory? Professional squash is back with Kiwi wins. Phil Gould considering overhaul of New Zealand Warriors travel schedule. The former IAAF, or the athletics head, has been found guilty of corruption and jailed. The Nuggets go through and the Heat win their opening game in their championships series. In the Tour de France, we have Lopez winning. In the Giro Rosa, we have another stage win for Marianne Vos. And Scott McLaughlin is hoping to make his IndyCar debut as well. Hi, I'm Paul, and I'll be your host this morning. This is your best way to start the day up to speed with all of the important sports news. And let's kick off with that squash news. Yes, professional squash is back with the Manchester Open. And two Kiwi players have won on their first one. Joel King defeated Latvia's Ineta Macvencia 11-6, 11-6, 11-5 for a comfortable win there. Paul Cole had it a bit harder. He is world number 5. He won 11-9, 9-11, 11-5, 11-6 over the Frenchman Baptiste Massotti. So congratulations to both of them on their returns and good luck in the rest of the Manchester Open. This is the first professional squash tournament in 6 months, obviously due to COVID-19. Moving on then to the cricket, and I'll hand you over to Ashwin for our cricket update.
Good morning, Paul, and good morning to all our interweb listeners and viewers. And yes, as Paul says, is England on the way to another series victory? England can England get there to that series victory, or can Australia pull this game out of the fire? England batted first, and off the back of a Johnny Bairstow century, made their way to 302 for 7 off their 50 overs. But as has been the series, England made a terrible start, and were actually 2 down after 2 balls with both Jason Roy and Joe Root back in the hut without troubling the scorers. A rare failure from Aaron Finch today as Australia got into trouble themselves when they were 73 for 5. But as we go to air, we've got Glenn Maxwell and Alex Carey that are leading the recovery for Australia. And at the moment, score update, Australia on 199 for 5. That's after 36.3 overs. They need a further 104 runs, or 103 runs. It's just clicked over off 80 balls. So Australia have now brought up their 200. Glenn Maxwell's on 65 and Alex Carey on 66. I think key to this game is going to be Glenn Maxwell. If he's there at the end, Australia wins. If he's not, then I don't know if the strength is there in the remaining batting order from what they've shown so far in the series. So moving right along, and the crowds will return to Australian cricket. For the first time since March, there will be limited number of spectators allowed to watch the Australia-New Zealand women's matches. Women's matches being played at Allan Border Field in Brisbane. All spectators will be asked not to cheer and shout too loudly to avoid transmission of the COVID. So basically, we don't want those molecules flying around when you shout, because they all spray everywhere when especially after you've had a few drinks. So now, in BCB is saying no to the SLC. So that's the Bangladesh Cricket Board is saying no to the Sri Lankan cricket on quarantine measures. Initially, Bangladesh players were going to be quarantined for a week before they could take to the field to train. Now the Sri Lanka cricket have said the quarantine period will be 14 days. BCB have responded saying it's not possible for their players to be confined to their hotel rooms for that long, which will also mean that they'll only have a week's preparation until the first test. And that's after not playing cricket for 6 months. Yeah, that doesn't work really, does it? They're going to need a bit more than a week's preparation. And it's Thursday, so it's time for your cricketing fix for the week. Tonight on the show, we'll go over the ODI series between England and Australia. We'll know who wins today's game. We'll look forward to their T20 series, and we'll also look through the IPL teams. Yes, the IPL starts this week. All that and your regular features right here at 8 p.m. New Zealand time on New Zealand Sport Radio with Swinging from the Hip. And that, Paul, is our cricket news for today.
Thank you very much, Arthur, for our cricket and the updates. I'll hand you over now to Stephen for our birthdays.
Kia ora, Paul. In birthdays this morning, we find a former Hawke's Bay flanker now involved with Hawke's Bay rugby. We also have a footballer that was born in Tokorua who now has Japanese citizenship, and finally a man who entrenched in Waikato went to Wales and now is back at the Chiefs as the head coach, and that's where we start this morning. Warren Gatland, born this day, the 17th of September 1963, is a former rugby player and currently head coach of the Waikato Chiefs. Since he became the coach in 2007, Wales won 6 titles under Gatland's leadership, taking out Grand Slam, and he reached the semi-final of the 2019 and 2011 Rugby World Cups. Gatland was also the head coach of the British and Orange Lions on their 2013 tour of Australia, where they won the Test Series 2-1, and in 2017 tour of New Zealand when the series was drawn. So that's Warren Gatland with a birthday today. Moving right along, Michael Fitzgerald, born this day, the 17th of September 1988 in Tokorua here in New Zealand, is an association football player. Now, he represented New Zealand at international level before gaining Japanese citizenship in 2013, and he plays football for Albrechts Niigata. Fitzgerald's application for Japanese citizenship means that he cannot ever play for the All Whites ever again, but I suppose it's his birthday today, so it won't matter too much. And finally, Carl Lowe, born this day, the 17th of September 1984 in Hastings, is a former rugby union player. Now, he attended St. John's College and Hastings Boys High. In 2004, he debuted for Hawke's Bay against the Bay of Plenty Steamers. He went on to play 100 first-class games between 2014 and 2013, and in 2009, he was selected for the Hurricanes. He left the franchise and he spent 5 years. He went away from Hawke's Bay, but he signed a 2-year contract for the Japanese club at Cannon Eagles. That was 2014, and he's also played a little bit in France as well. That's in the second tier of French rugby for Province Rugby in the 2017 season. Also a New Zealand Māori All Black in 2010-2012. He's also the brother of a current Hawke's Bay player, Jonah Lowe. So just to those players out there, happy birthday to you all. Ngā mihi. Back to you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for that. Over in gymnastics, the Human Rights Commission has now become involved in the review or into the allegations of abuse that have been happening in gymnastics. The Athletics Commission, which has been involved with with some of the athletes, has said that has called them in, and they've had talks with Gymnastics New Zealand. This follows a similar move in Australia, where Gymnastics Australia is working with the Australian Human Rights Commission. The head of the Athletics Federation, Roger Wadsworth from the Athletics Federation said that it became, when they started looking into this, it became apparent that this is a human rights and child protection issue. So let's hope that this review does take all of the right steps and involve all the parties that need to be involved in this. Obviously, it's been led by ex-WADA person. So you expect the review and does have independent people and an independent way for athletes to reach out to it. Moving over into canoe racing, where they're trying to put together a similar or have had alleged abuse in there, and canoe racing has appointed 2 independent people to facilitate what's been called a restorative process. However, for athletes to reach out to that, they have to go via canoe racing, which doesn't sound that independent. You'd expect it to go straight to the independent review if it was fully independent. So some question marks are being raised about the process there by some of the athletes in that one. I'm going to hand you back now to Stephen for the sport that just keeps on giving. It's our NRL update.
Yeah, it's giving us a lot to talk about these days, Paul. And league news this morning: Warriors considering signing Fonua Blake. Also, we look at the penultimate round or opening game of round 18 this evening, and finally, we have got Phil Gould, who's considering a overhaul of the Warriors' travel schedule. I'll get that out. COVID-19 has hit the Warriors with a haymaker, but it's also given the NRL a chance to reassess how the club operates and could have inadvertently provided a silver lining. That's the opinion of veteran coach, commentator, and now New Zealand Warriors consultant Phil Gould. It's opened up some options, and they're thinking about the amount of travel they do in a normal season, and that's to and from New Zealand. Gould told News Hub that includes a possible move away from alternating home and away fixtures. Gould said, spend a month here in Australia and play 4 games, and then a month in New Zealand and play 4 games in a row. He suggested longer blocks away would reduce travel and could be a win for the players, adds interim coach Todd Payton. There are times when I think the lack of travel has helped us, Payton said, but there are other times when I believe the lack of a home ground advantage has also hurt us. As for 2021, planning has been underway for some time and all options are being explored. These include being based in Australia for a whole season, part of the season, or even a return to normality. Warriors management have been left looking at all these contingents, Gould says. If they had to stay in Australia, where would they stay? It's half and half. What does that look like? At this stage, Gould expects preseason training in bubbles in January and a competition to start mid-March. Staying with the Warriors, prop Aiden Fonua Blake's imminent departure from the Manly Sea Eagles has made him a prime target for the New Zealand Warriors. Manly has granted Fonua Blake's request for an early release from the last 2 years of his contract, and the Tongan and former Kiwis international wants to relocate out of Sydney with his young family. News Hub understands the Warriors are interested in signing Fonua Blake and are setting up a meeting with the Tongan international and his manager in the next 24 to 48 hours to discuss a potential deal. The Warriors have actively pursued another front rower and missed out on the likes of Jack de Belin, David Fifita and Toby Rudolph in recent months. The Auckland-based club is one of a few alongside Brisbane Broncos, Gold Coast Titans, who have cap room to sign the 24-year-old in 2021. Fonua Blake played 1 test for the Kiwis before switching his allegiance to Tonga. He's since earned caps for Mate Ma, which is the Tongan International Rugby League team. Manly want compensation for Fonua Blake's early release and have urged his management to move quickly to find another club. Whilst Aiden is a senior and highly valued member of the Sea Eagles squad and would be a huge loss out of respect to him and his circumstances, the club has given his permission for the exploratory conversations to be conducted immediately, says the Sea Eagles. The club will look favourably upon a request to release Aiden from the final 2 years of his contract to compensate grounds as long as the Sea Eagles receive fair and reasonable compensation. So there you have it. And in final league news tonight, of course, it's penultimate round, starts at ANZ Stadium, and it sees the South Sydney Rabbitohs taking on the Canterbury Bulldogs. And if you've got enough energy to see out the day, that starts at 10 to 10. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow morning. Hei a pōpō, kia pai tō rā, which means have a good day.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And on the standoff last night, we talked about the recruitment for the Warriors, and also potentially about the whether the fact they might be playing in Australia next year would help with that. Obviously, with people wanting to move over here to New Zealand. So do check out the Standoff Show, available on our Facebook page, New Zealand Sports Radio, or if you want to listen to it on the go, you can download it on our podcast on all your favorite podcatchers via iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Just search for New Zealand Sports Radio on there. Moving on then into the to athletics, where former athletics head Lamani Dayak has been found guilty of corruption and has been jailed for 4 years, and with 2 of them suspended and also given a maximum fine of 500,000 euros in over in looks like it's over in France. And this is due to him taking bribes from athletes suspected of doping to cover up test results and letting them to continue competing, including for the 2012 London Olympics. And this is all linked to the Russian doping scandal. His lawyers said that they would be appealing against the judgment. Over in basketball, and the Nuggets won an exciting 7th game against the Clippers. The Clippers had a 12-point lead, in the second quarter. The Nuggets managed to peg that back to just a trail by 2 at half time, though. But in the second half of that game, they won the third quarter 28-18 and 22-15 in the fourth quarter to pull away and win that game 104-89 and to go through to the conference finals against the LA Lakers in that one. That's in the Western Conference Finals. Over in the Eastern Conference Finals, they kicked off yesterday with the Miami Heat beating the Boston Celtics 117-114 in overtime. Yes, clearly a real close game there, and it'll be interesting to see how that series develops over the next few games. Moving on to cycling, and in the Tour de France, Miguel Angel Lopez raced away to win stage 17 in what's been called the Queen stage, basically the toughest stage of the Tour. He pulled away to win the stage. Primoz Roglic finished second, slightly ahead of Tadej Pogačar to extend his lead overall. And that now means in the overall standings, Roglic is top, ahead of Tadej Pogačar by 57 seconds now. It was 40 seconds yesterday. Miguel Angel Lopez has climbed up to third overall, and with Richie Porte, the Australian, in fourth, having one of his best tours in many years. The veteran there. Over in the Giro Rosa, due to a collapsed bridge, they had to change the course, which meant that it was longer and had more climbing, which made it harder for the sprinters. Still, Marianne Vos won the sprint to take her third stage of this year. But over the overall, Annemiek van Vleuten still is leading the race by a minute 52, and Michaela Harvey, the New Zealand Equipe Pauli car rider, is still sat in fifth, 4 minutes and 21 seconds behind the leader. Michaela having a fantastic race over there in the Giro Rosa, which would remind you is the biggest stage race on the women's calendar. Over in supercars, and Scott McLaughlin is hoping to make his IndyCar debut less than a week after Bathurst. He has applied for exemptions from to be allowed to do this with an application for the Australian government to be allowed to leave the country. So yes, he's hoping to make his IndyCar racing. That'll be interesting as he moves from what is a saloon car racing to open wheel racing. And obviously on to the probably onto an oval as well. So big change there. But good luck to Scott McLaughlin to be able to do that. You have now started the day the best way, up to speed with all of the important sports news. Have a fantastic day, everybody. And we'll be back here tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the morning sports briefing. Don't forget that there is swinging from the hip at 8 p.m. today, as Ashwin told you. And I say, have a wonderful day.